Yeah, so hello everyone. So probably this is the last session of day 9. Okay, thank you so much for joining the session. Let me share my screen. Am I audible? Share my screen. Okay, let me check the chart works. Okay, thank you. So I hope my screen is also visible, right? Yeah, let me also check. Yeah, is my screen visible? Yeah, yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so in the next 1 hour, so I'll be talking about the importance of, what do you mean by attention mechanisms and the importance of attention mechanisms in medical image analysis, right? So maybe some of the speakers have already explained about, VIT and some of the other architectures where attention mechanisms have already been incorporated. So we'll discuss in detail, what do you mean by attention mechanisms? What are the types of attention mechanisms we have, and how to combine these attention mechanisms into architecture? And is there any architecture which is only dependent on attention mechanism or not? Right. So in this particular lecture, I'll be touching upon various things. As I mentioned, I'll start with discussing what do you mean by attention mechanism and how to mathematically define, attention and the types of attention mechanisms. There are multiple, categories of attention mechanisms we have. So based on, the type or based on the, you can say, there are different types basically, which I would like to talk upon. And there are a few case studies basically which we have been working on since a long time. We'll be talking on that, right? So, okay, let us start. What do you mean by attention mechanism? You all know that the term attention, right? How to define attention and why do we are interested in attention mechanisms and how it can be incorporated into some convolutional neural network architectures, or let's say, vision transformer kind of architectures. We'll see. So human vision systems can naturally and effectively see salient regions in complex regions. So whenever we see some, the input, or whenever we see something, so we usually see only the important parts, right? So for example, if I show you this picture, right, and ask you that what is the boy doing, so what you will do is you will only on this part, right? And you will not focus on the irrelevant parts. So only these parts are relevant for us, and other parts in the image, right? This tree part and this all the other parts are like irrelevant for us. So that means, if you choose any two particular patch or any two particular region from this part, so you can say that there is a high attention between, these regions. And if you choose other regions, and then there will be, low attention, right? If you just compare with this particular region with the other one, right? So it's automated in the human visual system that when we see something, when we talk about something, we usually focus only on the important parts, and we ignore the other parts. And that is what is the major goal here in attention mechanisms. We want to improve the representation of the interest. That means we want to focus only on the salient features, the important features, while ignoring the irrelevant ones, right? So how can we treat this? It can be that this kind of attention mechanism can be treated as a dynamic selection process. I will talk about it. What do you mean by why the name is so-called selection process, and what kind of things we are selecting here, right? And this can be easily realized by adaptively weighting the features, right? So there is a weighted combinations, and I will talk about it later on. What do you mean by weights here? How to generate the weights? Whether those weights are learnable or whether it is fixed, and how to get those weights, and how those weights are relevant to some sort of channels, some positions, which are very very important for us, right? And if you go through the recent literature, you will find that by incorporating attention mechanisms with the convolutional block or with the convolutional convolutional neural network, there has been significant improvement in the performance compared to the models without having the attention mechanisms, right? So I have another example. Yes, this is one of the examples where the model has been designed to generate the captions. So now if you look at the output here, the model is trying to generate some of the words. And if you look at this particular image, so it generates the captions like a woman is throwing a frisbee, right, in the park. So when the model is generating the words like woman, the model is trying to focus on this part. And when the model is trying to generate, let's say, the frisbee, so now you see, right, the focus of the model is now at the frisbee. And it should be there because the model is trying to generate the words by looking at the important parts. And that time, the model is not considering the other parts of the image, right? So, I mean, that is how the attention is very, very important for us. And based on, the inspiration has come from the human visual systems, like we attain only the important part, right? Whenever we see something. So similarly, can a model also attain an important part? And you know how important it is and how related it is to the medical imaging domain, where you only want to focus on the, tumor region, or let's say there are some pathology regions in the image. So you want to only focus on those regions, and your model should not focus on the other regions, because if your model is focusing on other regions, that means it's also trying to, learn some, informations which are redundant, which are not relevant, for decision making. Fine. So coming to the types of attention mechanism, just now we have talked about what do you mean by this attention mechanism, and why it is important for us, right? And we have just now seen why it is important, because the model should only focus on the important parts, not on the other parts. So coming to the types of the attention mechanisms, you'll find different categories of or you can say different types of attention mechanisms, and it has been also divided into multiple types. So this is one of the broad categories, you can say, where every attention can be either defined into hard attention or soft attention. So when I say hard attention, that means you have to choose only a single region of the image, right? And your model will be focusing only on that region and will not bother about other region, right? And this kind of actually, attention is purely stochastic in nature, and it is sometimes very, very difficult for the back propagation algorithm while back propagating, and because some of the other parts are non-differentiable. So what we're interested in, instead of this hard attention, the soft attention says you will give some weightage to all the person or all the different parts of the image. And now it is something very different. So it can be differentiable and you can easily back propagate, right? The back propagation algorithm is going to work very well, because now you are giving different weights to the different regions, right? So if you want to give higher weight to your important parts, you can just give higher weight, and you can give less weight to the parts which are not relevant for us. Right. So another kind of division or categorization is like local attention versus global attention. So local means either you have to choose a neighborhood region or a patch region over here, which is very, very important for us, and you will not bother about the other regions. The global is like you will focus all the regions at a time, right? We'll talk about it later on. So which one is good, local and global? Fine. And coming to the computer, the category, right? The category of the attention mechanisms which are used in the computer vision domain, right, is basically, right, of different types. One is channel attention, you might have heard about, and one is spatial attention, right? It's very, very important, and commonly used in analyzing the images, right? Whether it is for a classification problem, segmentation problem, or for other types of problems as well. And also, you might have seen that people are also combining this channel attention and spatial attention together, right? And there are also a couple of popular attention mechanisms like BAM and CBAM. I will also show you how they have combined, right, these two different types of attention mechanisms. Also, there are different other types of attention mechanisms like temporal attentions if you are working with video data, right? So, and then there are also other types of attention mechanisms like self attentions. In general, comes under this category, spatial attention. But if you want, you can also design a self attention channel wise. I'll discuss why the name is so called channel attention, what is the meaning of this spatial attention, and in the channel attention, the takeaway here is to what to attend, right? And here it is where to attend. What does it mean? What to attend, where to attend, right? Why do we need to combine this spatial attention and channel attention together, right? So if you take only one kind of attention, right, what is happening, and if you are combining them, then how do you know that whether combinations are good and what kind of combinations? Because when I say combinations can be done in multiple ways, right? So this kind of information you will get. I mean, basically this picture I have taken from a paper, which is a very popular survey paper, Attention Mechanisms in Computer Vision. If you want, you can just go through here, right? Go through this paper, you will get a lot of models or a lot of attention mechanisms based on channel attention or based on spatial attention, combinations of channel and spatial, temporal attention, and so many. So mathematically, when I say attention, right, it can be simply denoted as f of g of x and x. That means a function which can take two parameters, that is z of x and x. What is z of x here and what is x? Obviously, x is the input, right? So x is the input and g of x are nothing but the weights, right? Through which you want to produce some attention map, right? So this function can be different, right? This function can be different. You can say if you're choosing channel attention, this function will be different. If you're choosing spatial attention, this will be different. But the idea for all the attentions, whether it is channel attention, whether it is spatial attention, whether it is self attention, the idea is pretty simple, that every time you will be having some weights and those weights will be multiplied, right? That will be a weighted multiplications, right? With the inputs, and what you are expecting that the input which you are having earlier, and after multiplication, what you are getting is a refined version of the input, right? And that will help us in attending to discriminative regions and ignoring, or you can say, suppressing the irrelevant regions. That is what we want here, right? So for example, okay, I have not yet discussed what do you mean by squeeze and excitation. The squeeze and excitation is nothing but one type of channel attention mechanism, right? Which is very, very popular. And the first attention mechanism which was proposed, right? So I'll first discuss what do you mean by squeeze and excitation, and then I will show you, right, how we can represent the squeeze excitation in the form of g of x. You can right now see here, there are a couple of functions I have applied over the input to get the weights, and as I mentioned that those weights will be multiplied here with the input, right? It is simply you can say the element wise product, right? And what you are ultimately getting is an attention feature map, right? And which from where you can easily get the important information, which was not there with the original input. That's what is right mathematically. How can we mathematically define attention? Okay. So as I mentioned that channel attention and spatial attentions are the two types of attentions which are very, very popular and has been extensively used in several computer vision applications as well as medical imaging applications. So you should first understand that what do you mean by channel attention and what do you mean by spatial attention and why they have been incorporated into convolutional neural network or while designing a convolutional block, right? And how it looks like and what are the different types of channel attentions, right? The researchers have proposed till date. So this is the first channel attention, you can say mechanism, right, which is proposed in a CPPR, the top conference in the field of computer vision in the year 2018, and the name is so-called squeeze and excitation network, right? So when I say channel attention, so you all know that after applying several operations in the convolutional neural network like convolution, pooling, so always you are getting something called as a feature map, right? So this feature map can have size like HWC. H here denotes the height, W denotes weight, and C is nothing but the depth. And basically this C is nothing but the number of filters you have applied just in the preceding layer. That's what we have also discussed, right, in one of my lecture. That after applying convolution operations, what you are getting is a different set of features and you are just stacking those features and ultimately you are getting a feature volume here. And now what do you want? You want to refine these features and you want to only highlight the important features, right? And you want to ignore the other parts of the features which are not important for the decision making. That is what is our goal here. So as you see, if you see this particular feature map, so you will find two different things. One is the different channels we have, right? And one is the position. So that is why we're talking about two different types of attentions, right? So which channel is very, very important for us. You need to highlight the important channel and suppress the other channels for which channel attention has been designed. And when we talk about the position, right, that means which position is very, very important for us and which position is not important. So that is what is the job of the spatial attention, position attention, which will help us in attending only to those important positions and ignoring the unimportant positions, right? So let us first focus on the channel attention. So if you look at the channel attention over here, what it says that different channels, basically here, if you look at, there are C number of channels, right? So different channels in different feature map usually represents different kind of objects, right? This is just the result of the results after applying different types of filters over a feature volume, right? So this channel attention adaptively adjusts the weight of each channel. So if there are C number of channels, so there must be C number of weights, and those weights will be multiplied with the feature map of each channel or each C number of channel. And finally, you can, based on those weights, you can decide that which of the channels are important for us and which of the channels are not important for us. Right. So that means how to I mean, design those C number of weights. We don't want to design by ourselves or don't want to provide a fixed weight value to each of those C number of channels. Rather, we want to make it learnable. So we want to make it learnable means we want to obviously pass some of the weights, and we want to also train those weights with the help of a backpropagation algorithm, right? The kind of, I mean, the way you are training all the parameters, you will also train these parameters as well. So sometimes, if because the task, right, is just to view, right, this channel attention is object selection process, and so it is sometimes known as what to pay attention, right? I mean, what to attend in this particular image, right? Which of the channel which you want to attend, right? Initially, because we're talking about channel attention. So how to do this, or how to get C number of weight values? It's very simple. There are various ways. There are multiple, papers on channel attention, and this is one of the simplest approach through which you can find out the C number of weights and multiply those weights with each of the corresponding, right, channels. And you can see just here, just for for better visualizations, what they have given is they have just given different colors, right, to each of the C number of weights, and when they multiplied with when the element wise multiplied with C number of channels, so that is what is the answer. You can see the answers over here, and these are nothing but the attention based feature map, right? Which you can say is a refined feature map having same size of the input. The input, there will be no change in the size, only you are trying to multiply some weights, right, along the channel axis or along the depth. Right. So how to get this C number of values? As I mentioned, there are multiple ways to do this. And in the squeeze excitation paper, they have reported that what you have to do is this. If you apply these operations, right? Like first you will apply global average pooling, you will immediately get a 1 cross 1 cross C kind of tensor over here, because for every feature map, if you are applying global pooling, so you will get a single value. So similarly, for C number of feature maps, you will get C number of values. So you have already got C number of values, but these values has to be learnable. So how to get on this cannot be directly considered as the weights. So what you can do now, we want to make it learnable. So that means you can either apply MLP layer over here, or you can also replace that layer by a 1 cross 1 convolution layer, because this is a one-dimensional one. So you can easily go for applying 1 cross 1 convolution. At the end, they're applying a sigmoid activation function over here, right, to get the attention weights. So these are known as, sometimes called as attention scores or attention maps. And these attention weights will be multiplied element wise with the input, and what you are getting is this one. I hope this makes sense and you have at least got the idea what do you mean by channel attention. So similarly, yeah, here is an example, right? How this channel attention, right? The concept of channel attention can be applied in this inception network and residual network. You will find there are multiple ways even to incorporate this kind of attention, right, into the convolutional neural network. While designing a block, you can insert this kind of attention network. You can also insert, or you can also integrate this kind of attention mechanism at the end of the convolutional neural network. We'll discuss, if the time permits, that what are the different ways to incorporate this kind of attention mechanisms into the convolutional neural network. Fine. So here are some of the results. If you see whatever the CNet, I mean, I collected from that particular paper, that after integrating those attention, basically channel attention, the error rate has been drastically reduced. If you can see over here, right? So the error rate is less compared to the other architectures, right? It is just with the introduction of this channel attention mechanism, right? Yeah, so I have also few visualization results I will show you. There's one more very popular, right, attention mechanism which was proposed in a European conference on computer vision. One of the, again, as I mentioned, a star conference in the field of computer vision. So where they have proposed something called as a convolutional bottleneck attention module, right? And now if you just look at this particular attention block, right? And here you will find that the input feature is initially passed through a channel attention module, and it generates some one-dimensional weights, as I mentioned. And it got multiplied with the input image. And finally, what you will get is the channel-wise attention map or attention feature map. And then after getting an attention map, right, by applying the channel attention, they have applied the spatial attention module. So I've just now talked about the importance of the channel attention. But as I mentioned, that in every feature map, right, either you can choose which of the channels or which of the channels need to be highlighted, right, and which of the channels need to be suppressed. So similarly, within each channel, you can also check that which of the positions are very, very important. Right. So like you have selected, right? So why the name is so-called adaptive selection? I mean, adaptive selection. So in previous case, we have adaptively selected the number of channels. I mean, basically adaptively selected the channels. Now you are adaptively selecting the regions, right? By dynamically weighting with the input feature map. Right? That's what is the major goal here. So when I say spatial attention, it can be also called as positional attention, where every positions will be associated with a weight value, then they will be multiplied, right? And we want those attentions, right? Those attention weights need to be learned with the help of the back propagation algorithms. We should not want to, fix it. So what you have to do then you have to generate an attention map. So now you want to multiply, or now you want to focus only on the important parts, right? Not on the channels, because the channel part is over. So now you want to focus only on the important regions within the feature map, right? So that means, again, you have to generate some of the weights. Like in the previous case, we have generated the weights, right? You can see over here how we have generated the weights by applying a global average pooling operations followed by convolution operations or maybe multi-layer perceptron. And then you have applied a sigmoid operations to get these weights, and these weights were one-dimensional weights and multiplied with, right, multiplied with the original, I mean, element-wise multiplied with the original feature map or the original feature to get this one. So now in case of spatial attention, can you tell me that whether I will get a one-dimensional weight vector or a two-dimensional weight matrix? I mean, the attention weights should be one-dimensional or two-dimensional. Because we are focusing only on, I mean, our main goal is to focus on the important regions, right? Important spatial positions in the image. That's why the name is so-called spatial attention. And the takeaway here is to where to pay attention, right? So here are some of the terms we use for channel attention and spatial attention. Channel attention says what to attend or what to pay attention. And here we told where to pay attention. So now who can tell me that whether the attention scores or the attention weight is one-dimensional or two-dimensional in case of spatial attention? If you have understood the channel attention, then you can easily answer my question. There I could see answers from Ashish Trivedi. It is 2. Okay. Any other answers? Yeah, it is 2D. Okay. Any other answers? Okay, let us go ahead, right? Because we are running out of time. So let us go ahead. I think it's 7-7. Okay. Yeah, your answer is absolutely correct. Why? Because our goal is to, uh, apply spatial attention here and apply and goal is to focus only on the spatial contents, right? Not on the other contents. So that means there must be a weighted, there must be a matrix, or the weights should be in the two-dimensional and having same size as the input. Like if you are considering h is the height, w is the width, so you must have an attention weight matrix, which is known as attention scores, having size h into w, where h is the height and w is the width. Right now, the question is how to get this. So there are, again, as I mentioned, there are various ways to get this kind of matrix. So what you can do, the simplest way is to apply the, apply, let's say, the global average pooling across the channel. Right. So previously we were applying global average pooling, right, on every feature map, and you are getting a single value for each of the feature map, and ultimately you are getting C number of values. But now what I'm saying that that for every positions, like every position is here is C dimensional. So what you can do, you can just apply the global average pooling or global max pooling across the channel, and what you will ultimately get is a matrix having size H cross W cross 1. And now what you've got is, right, a matrix having size H cross W cross 1, and then you will multiply that particular, then you can simply apply some of the convolution operations to make it learnable. And then finally you have to apply a sigmoid operations, right? And finally you can apply a sigmoid operations, right? And to get the weights. And these are like this spatial attention weights or spatial attention scores. And after getting the attention weights, you know what you have to do. You can element wise multiply these particular, right, values with all the feature maps. And what you will ultimately get is a spatial attention feature map, right? Spatial attention feature map. So now, just now we have seen that what do you mean by channel attention, what do you mean by spatial attention, and how to incorporate channel attention and spatial attention and how they are connected. So in CBAM, right, you will find that the channel attentions and spatial attentions are connected sequentially, one after another. You can ask me one question here. So why channel attention first? Why spatial attention second? Why not spatial attention first, channel attention second, right? Okay, so we'll come to that point right later on. Maybe during the question answer discussion session, I will discuss that. So another possibility could be, right, using, or you can say connecting these attention mechanisms in parallel manner. What does it mean? You will apply a channel attention over here on the same input. You will also apply and the spatial attention over the same input, and then you will combine the feature maps of which you have got from the two different blocks, like from channel attention block and spatial attention blocks. And that has also been proposed in another kind of architecture known as BAM. Right? If you go through the literature, you will find people have combined this channel attention and spatial attention in various ways. And the two common ways are like sequential connections and parallel connections, as I mentioned. Right? So that you need to check. And there are some visualization results I have. You already know what do you mean by grad cams, heat maps. Already there are few lectures where we have seen that how this grad cams helps us in improving the explainability or interpretability of the model, and how it helps us, right, in basically visualizing where the model is focusing on. So if you just look at this particular, a set of results, right, which was, when CBAM was applied over some sort of images, right? So the results of the CBAM is just at the below. So now if you look at carefully, right, so here are the results, right? The results by three different methods. One is ResNet 50, right, which is a very popular architecture. You all know that. And this, the second, the results, right, in this particular row, right, is nothing but obtained by ResNet plus SE. What does it mean? When squeezed excitation, that means when channel attention is only applied over ResNet or with a ResNet. And the last one is when channel attention and spatial attention is together applied together applied and integrated with the architecture known as ResNet 50. And now you see there are some images on which, right, this ResNet plus CBAM is focusing the important parts, right? And here, if you look at the results obtained by this ResNet 50 and this ResNet 50 plus SE, they are not focusing on all the important parts. Somehow they're missing some of the relevant parts. If you look at this snow leopard over here, they are not, they are not focusing properly on this part. Somehow they're missing, right? And if you look at the results obtained using CBAM, it is really, really better compared to this only channel attention and without any attention, right? This was such an example. So we'll also see some of the case studies in the medical imaging domain. I hope at least you got the idea behind channel attention and spatial attention. So there's one type of attention which is very, very popular and plays an important role in design, right? Or in designing vision transformers, which is nothing but self-attentions, right? You might have seen this particular architecture. Maybe some of the other speakers have already talked about vision transformer or the importance of the transformer model, right? So transformer, as I mentioned, right, is one of the deep learning architectures, recent deep learning architectures, right, and has achieved a lot of attentions from the researchers since last 3-4 years because of its ability to capture long-range dependencies, so basically to capture global informations from the images. CNN has some limitations. CNN works locally, that convolution operations are applied in a local region. So CNNs are very good at extraction of local features, so local contextual informations from the images. And even if you are applying the convolutions, right, for so many times, right, in a network, but still the receptive field size is limited. And that is why CNN cannot extract the global informations from the image, which is very, very important. And if you go through the literature, you will find that attention initially, right, when it was proposed, it was only incorporated with convolutional neural network or only in some of the convolutional blocks. Then people thought of designing, right, or using the attention mechanisms without convolutions. So transformers, right, the concept has brought from the natural language processing domain where it was working well. Then people thought of designing a vision transformer model dedicatedly, right, to solve image and video centric problems. And if you look at this particular architecture, the core component here is nothing but attentions, because the major component in the VIT architecture is the transformer encoder. And this transformer encoder is, right, is defined over here. And if you look at here, so there's a term here, there's a block known as multi-head attention. Very, very important. You might have seen, so I should not go through in detail, right? What do you mean by this attention? I mean, VIT architecture and how to, and what are the important things they've introduced here. And if you go through the original VIT architecture, and this is the original VIT architecture, the base VIT architecture, where you will not find, right, any convolution operation. There's no convolution operation here. Right? There is no convolution operations, only you will find attentions, and there are some other things. So initially they had a goal to apply, right, this transformer encoder over each of the pixels, but due to some memory constraints and all, so they have initially divided the image into certain batches, and then they have applied the linear projections concept over here, introduced something called as label embedding, class embedding into it, to preserve the class embedding and position embeddings, basically to preserve the positions. And finally, all those flattened patches, right, with the help of linear projections will be passed to the transformer encoder. And this is where this transformer encoder is totally based on something called as an attention mechanism. And what type of attention it is? It is a self-attention mechanism. So initially, if you go through the literature, you will find that the self-attention mechanisms is applied to one-dimensional vectors because it was, it was applied only on the flattened pages. The pages were flattened to one-dimensional vectors, and then you were applying transformer encoders. Right. So later you will find some of the works, right, where people are applying the self-attention on the two-dimensional or three-dimensional pages. Or even you can extract, instead of directly extracting the pages and then applying this transformer encoder, you can extract those kind of patches with the help of a convolutional neural network, and then you can apply this transformer encoder, and that will become a convolutional transformer. We'll talk about it later on. And what are the advantages of convolutional transformer over only CNN architecture or over only Bayesian transformer based models, right? So I'm not interested to show you 1D, self-attention. So what is more important is a 2D self-attention, or you can say multidimensional self-attention. Why? Because ultimately you have to deal with the images or the patches, which is either in 2D or in 3D. So if you just convert those into 1D, you will lose some of the informations, right? So that is why, right? So what is more important is to understand what do you mean by this multidimensional self-attentions, right? Basically, the self-attentions when it is applied on the 2D data or 3D data, right? Which is a feature map for us. So this is how actually the self-attention looks like. It looks very different from the kind of spatial attentions or channel attention we have seen just now, right? So to make you understand, I have to, I think, mark something over here because the sizes are not written over here properly, right? So let me just give me 1 minute. Try to connect my writing pad and I can better explain what do you mean by the self-attention. Yeah. I hope my screen is visible. Yeah. So like channel attention and spatial attention. So let's say the input to my self-attention is right same, which is H into W into 6, three-dimensional feature maps. We all know, right? Because this is the height, W is the width. This basically tells us the spatial coordinates of the image. This is H, this is H, this is width, and this is the number of channels we have, let's say. And ultimately, we know also the outputs are also in terms of it should be H cross W cross C. So now we'll see, right, the process that are involved in a self-attention right module. We're talking about self-attention, right? Basically two-dimensional self-attention. You can say three-dimensional self-attention. You can say. I'm not talking about when self-attention was applied, right? When we will not find. When the input was first converted into a vector and then how to apply it, right? Self-attention on the vector. That is different, and this one is different. Operations are same. Procedure is same. Only the outputs and the attention weights are different, or attention score is different, right? So as I mentioned, the self-attention is the core component in Bayesian transformer, and this is the this is where actually Bayesian transformer helps in finding out or capturing the global informations from the image and how it is possible and how it tries to find out the global informations also we'll see, right? And how it tries to find out the pairwise relationship or pairwise attentions for each of the pixels. So initially you will find that the input is projected to 3 different projections or transformed to 3 different projections like query, key, and value. And how to just or how to project this just with the help of 1x1 convolution over here. If you just apply 1x1 convolution, again you will get the output after here. You will get the output H cross W cross C. Sometimes if you want, you can also reduce the number of channels to C dash, right? Because the number of computations is going to be very high. And if you are choosing C number, the C dash can be is very, very less than C. You can also choose C dash is equal to like C open K, where K is the reduction factor. K is the reduction factor. K can be 2, K can be 4, like that. Fine. And then what you have to do is, everywhere you'll get the same, H cross W cross C, and here also H cross W cross C. After applying 1 cross 1 convolution, you know that there'll be no change in the size. Only if you want, you can just change the depth. If you want, you can make it C dash as I mentioned, right? But if you don't want to change, then you can just make it also C. But if you are going with the C number of channels, as I mentioned, the number of operations is going to be very, very high, because here there is nothing called as element wise multiplication. Here you need to perform matrix multiplication, and you know how many operations are required in matrix multiplication compared to element wise multiplication. Fine. So then after let's say for example, right, I'm not reducing the number of channels here, but it is a good practice to reduce the number of channels. Right? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to reshape into this, reshape like this. Fine. And then what I'm trying to do here in this case, as I told that this is query, this is K. Right, this is another projections, and I will also reshape this as H W into C, and also I will take a transpose of it. So I will take the transpose here, and finally what I will get is a C cross SW. It is just from HWC to HW into C, which is nothing but just by reshaping a 3-dimensional feature map into a 2-dimensional one, and then I've just taken a transpose. Now you see what I've done, and I have just applied a matrix multiplications. I'm just trying to perform a matrix multiplication between Q into K transpose. Right? This is just a matrix multiplication. This HW into C into SW. So what you will get is this one. SW cross SW. This is a very large size matrix. You know that, right? And after that, to get the attention scores or attention weights here, we are applying softmax. We are not applying sigmoid here, right? We are applying a softmax activation functions, and what it basically tells, right? Let's say you are considering a feature map having size 7 cross 7 cross, let's say 512. Let's say this is the output of ResNet. Let's say this is the output of ResNet, maybe maybe after the last convolutional layer, right? So what it tells us, because the height is 7, width is 7, it tells us 40. It will give us a 49 cross 49, right? This will be the weight factor, or this will be the weight. You can say the attention scores. So what it tells, how one position, because there are 49 positions here and there are 49 positions here. So what it basically tells us, how one position is related to other positions. And similarly, in the second row, you are trying to find out how the second position is related to all other positions, right? With the help of the same feature map we are doing, right? We are trying to find out this. So that's why sometimes it is known as pairwise relation. We are trying to find out the pairwise feature relationship within the map or within the feature volume. So how every pixels or how every pixels in the feature map is related to every other pixels. And that is where this global information comes into the picture. Right? Earlier, we are just applying a simple, simple operations over a local region. And that's why those kind of attentions, right, which you have seen just now, like channel attention, traditional channel attention and traditional spatial attentions can be treated as a local attention, but this can be considered as a global attentions. So now after getting these weights, right, H and having size SW cross SW, and softmax means, you have to apply the softmax like this. And if you just add them together, you will get the value 1. How every pixel is related to every other pixels, right? So you'll get the probability values, and if you just add them together, you will get value 1. Fine. So after getting these weights, what you will do is you will multiply, right? You will multiply this weight matrix or this attention scores with the value matrix. So this is having size HW cross C. This is again will be this value projection or value tensor will be reshaped like this. right? And this will be having size SW cross C. And then if you just this will be, sorry, this is having size SW cross SW, and if you just multiply them together, what you will get is SW cross C. Again, you will reshape, and again you will apply if required. If required, you may apply here 1 cross 1 convolution, right? And then finally you will get HW cross C. Right? This 1 cross 1 convolution is very important while in case where you have reduced, right, from C to C dash, to get again C here, because ultimately you will get a C dash here, and to get back the original feature size. So the original depth value C. So you have to apply 1 cross 1 convolution filter having C number of filters. And that is the overall idea behind self-attentions, how the self-attentions can be directly applied over the feature map having size S cross W cross C. So no need to, no need to just, always project all these patches or all these feature maps into one dimension, then you apply, because you know that if you convert into one dimensional, there's a possibility of loss of informations, right? So that's why always better to use this one if you're dealing with, basically images and videos. And this attention module is very important while designing region transformer models. And here we have seen only, the self attention here is trying to find out the global informations along the spatial dimension, SW cross SW. So similarly, we have also developed something called as a channel-wise self attention. So where you can find out the relationship, the global relationship or the pair-wise relationship among the channels, how every channel is related to every other channels. So in that case, this attention scores will be, or this attention weight matrix will be having size C cross C. I hope you got my point, how to design this, right? Okay, so let me show you some of the case studies which I'm having, right? Based on these attention mechanisms. So we have some works related to attention mechanisms, couple of works. So I'll showcase also some of the works which we have applied, where we have applied attention mechanisms in my, I think, last lecture, where I'll be focusing on analyzing fundus images for retinal disease diagnosis. But here there are only 2-3 cases, case studies which I've chosen. One is like brain tumor classification problem, which is a very common problem, you know that, very old problem, and where the task is to classify the brain tumors into 3 categories: glioma, meningioma, and pituitary. And for that, we have just designed an attention mechanism, and there's a very work which was published in 2022 International Conference on Image Processing. We all know this is a very old and large conference in the field of image processing, right? So with one of my student, TK Datta. Where basically our goal was to extract or learn the features from a CNN backbone, and then try to try to integrate an attention mechanisms, right, to further refine the features, and followed by some of the classifications as we are commonly doing, right, using global average pooling and fully connected pair. So this is where actually our contributions lies in, right, where we have introduced something called as a channel split dual attention mechanism. Also, we are having here channel attentions and partial attentions together, but we initially splitted the whole feature map into 2 parts to reduce the number of features, right? And then we have applied this channel attention and spatial attentions together. And of course, the way which we designed actually this kind of attention is a bit different from the traditional ways, and we have also compared the same with the traditional approach like squeeze and excitation and CBAM, which I have already mentioned. So if you just go through the results here, right, with all the possible backbones, very popular backbones, you can see DenseNet, MobileNet, ResNet, SqueezeNet, and EfficientNet. So every time we are achieving consistently improved results, right, by incorporating our proposed attention compared to the other attention mechanisms, right? So if you just look at the results over here, I mean the visualization results, this is the output, right? And here you can see I have chosen only 3 samples, and where the tumor regions is clearly visible. Here also the tumor region is visible. Here also the tumor region is clearly visible, right? So without attentions, the model is, if you look at the quantitative results, the accuracy is not that much significantly improved. It is just maybe in terms of improvement is only by 2 to 3% like that. So but the model is focusing on every parts, right? The model is focusing on every part without having attentions, but with attentions, the model is clearly focused only on the important parts, and the model is right ignoring the other parts, or you can say the irrelevant parts, right? That is possible with the help of the attention mechanisms. And here are some of the results, comparison results. If you want, you can check. Similarly, this is one of the results which I have taken from this paper, right? Where you can see the lesson regions have been marked with red arrows, right? And these are some of the results obtained by the model, where there was a network designed with the help of attention mechanism known as a cross-lesion attention network, right? So we can see the results. After applying this attention model into the network, the model is trying to focus only on the important regions, right? Where the doctors or the ophthalmologists, these are all retinal images, basically used for the diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy, is a kind of eye disease, right? There are different types of pathology available. So I may talk more about this in my next lecture, that what are the different pathologies, and based on what we can say that yes, the person is having diabetic retinopathy or not, by looking at the fundus images or retinal fundus images. So just if you just look at we will just look at this particular image, right? In this particular image, you will find some hemorrhage over here, and this hemorrhage has been marked using red color. And if you apply an attention mechanism, right, with the help of a CNN model, if you apply these attention mechanisms and integrate with a CNN model, so now you see the model is trying to appropriately focus only on this region, not other regions, right? This is what we want, right? Because when ophthalmologists used to see this picture, they only used to focus this region, and other parts are like irrelevant parts for us. So then we need to check that whether our model is also focusing on this part or not. And this is how you can just, improve your interpretability of your model. Fine. And there's one more work, as I mentioned, that CNN is very good at extraction of local features. VIT is very good at extraction of global informations from the image. So why not to combine them together, right? Because both informations are very, very important for us. So if you go to the literature, we'll find the traditional VIT architecture doesn't have any convolution operations. That means it is also lacking some of the local informations which are relevant. So why need to combine them together, as I mentioned, instead of directly considering the patches from the images. So it's better to take the patches by applying some of the convolutional neural network architecture, right? So that's why the people have right now, right, there's a current trend that people are focusing on designing convolutional transformer model, which basically tells us, right, it's nothing but a hybridization of convolution and transformer together. You can say just combinations of convolution operations and cell partitions together, cell partition mechanisms together, or transformer layers together, basically, right? So in that direction, we also worked, and we have applied to some of the medical imaging domain. One of the domain is how to detect the breast cancers, how to classify breast cancers based on the histopathological image. For that, we have taken some Breakis. There are the data sets already available, publicly available data sets, and very popular data sets is a Breakis data set. So it's basically the task is either two class classification or 8-class classification. So initially we had a focus on solving binary class classification problem by taking the benefits of both CNN and VIT together. So maybe no one has done this before, so we thought of why not to combine them together. Right, so we just combined them together and identified that alone CNN and alone VIT is not performing well, but when we're combining them together, it is giving better results, right? Because the reason is the model is now capable of extraction of the both local and global informations together, right? So here are some samples, right? Pathological images are very, very difficult for us to understand, right? I mean, if it is X-ray image, somewhat you can relate. If it is MRI and CT scan, somewhat you can relate with some of the organs. But here it's very, very, very difficult to understand because it is all the informations are at the cell level, right? So it is very, very difficult for us to understand the pathological images. But yes, there are some markers provided by the doctors through which you can at least identify whether it belongs to benign category or malignant category. And here are the results. Here are some of the sample pathological histopathological images at different scales or at different magnifications, you can say, at 40x magnification, 100, 204x magnifications for both the categories, right? So I mean, the idea I have already mentioned to you that why we have combined the CNN and VIT together, and this was the model which we have proposed recently. So, I mean, the name which we have given is like residual deformable attention-based transformer network. I already mentioned you, right? There are different types of, convolution operations which have, and one of the important type of convolution is a deformable convolutions, which is pretty different from the traditional convolution, which only focus on a rectangular, a region of 3 cross 3 or 5 cross 5 or 7 cross 7 like that. It is not adaptive to the deformations of the pathology or regions, or you can say the, tumor regions, or you can say the lesion regions, right? So I mean, so just to capture those deformations, we have introduced deformable convolutions into the self attention mechanisms, and we have just modified the self attention mechanisms just by introduced those that convolutions in place of the traditional convolutions. And also we have as I mentioned that yes, we have developed a channel wise self attention in addition to the spatial attention. So we have combined them together. And if you look at this architecture, it is pretty simple. It is just there is only a backbone network here, which is CNN1. You can take any backbone here, and the next layer, if you see, which is nothing but a transformer layer, is very similar to the layer which I have shown before, right? In traditional VIT, this is what is architecture, right? Only in place of this, attention, the normal self attention. Multi-head means if you are applying this self attention multiple times, and then you can just combine the outputs, right? So in place of that self attention, so we have just proposed our own self attention over here, where we have introduced a deformable convolution, and there are multiple heads, as I mentioned, right? I mean, in that case, there are also multiple heads. Here also there are multiple heads, and with this, right? So what you are getting is some interesting results, right? Compared to the previous, or compared to the traditional attentions. If you are also integrating the traditional attention mechanisms over here, and in place of that, if you are inserting, right, or if you are combining, you can say, and transforming layer, right? Then what you are getting is this kind of result you can see. So we are always getting improved results. Comparatively, we are getting better results compared to the other attention mechanisms like squeeze and excitations, which I mentioned, right? And BAM and CBAM also I have mentioned. And also, if you want to only compare with the traditional self attentions, we are getting relatively better results, as I mentioned, right? We have make some modifications in the self attentions, right? And here is just the result which we have obtained. And here's the visualization results, the markers provided by the doctors, right? Where are the pathology regions in those in this particular images? And if you look at these pathology regions, right? So the model without any attention, or the model without any attention, is not able to focus on the important regions, right? Which are very, very important for the doctors, right? To identify or to make some decisions, right? You can just look at the regions are not clear, and it is not it is not focusing on all the parts which are important, but after introducing the transformer layer, it is trying to focus, right, on the important parts. I mean, exactly those parts where the doctors have provided the indicators, right? So so another work also which we have recently done, I mean the similar kind of work, right? But we have applied to segmentation problems, which is polyp segmentation problem. Maybe Dr. Davis will talk more about it, because I mean because his talk is basically on this particular part, like gastrointestinal disease, and how this colonoscopy images are being used to detect, right, the polyps. The polyps are very, very important because of, it is so much related to colorectal cancers, which is the third most common cancer worldwide, and it always starts from polyps, which is a tiny and non-cancerous bunch of cells, and always you will find this kind of polyps in the inner wall of the colons. Very, very difficult to identify the polyps. The miss rate is so high by the doctors, right? So why it is very, very challenging, and why the segmentation of the polyps is challenging? Because of its size, shape, and color variations. Sometimes its textures are very, very similar to the surrounding tissues, and the boundaries are indistinct, right? So the camouflage properties of these polyps creates a lot of issues, a lot of challenge in identifying the polyps. As I mentioned, the miss rate is even more, 20%. So, and what will be the consequences, right? So the number of cases are increasing day by day. I mean, the cancer cases, colorectal cancer cases. So it is very, very, important to early detect, right, the polyps. As I mentioned, there are challenges while detecting the polyps. So if you can design the deep learning based model to detect such type of polyps which are not visible to naked eye. So if I show you this one, this the picture, you can see the second case basically here, right? So it is sometimes very, very difficult to identify whether there is a polyp or not, and not all the cells, or not all the grown cells, right? All the grown cells are, right, belong to the polyp category. That can be also non-polyp. So very, very important to identify the polyps. So we have also, with the same idea, we have designed something called as a multi-scale convolutional transformer network, right? Which was recently published in ICIP 2024, and also been awarded as top 5% papers, right, in this particular conference. It's one of the renowned conference in the field of image processing. And this work is with one of my master students, Niladri. Right. So, I mean, if you just look at this architecture, it looks like the unit architecture, which I've already shown to you, but the components are very different here, right? So if you look at in the encoder, we are not using transformer here, but in the decoder, we are using transformer. And as I mentioned that we have not only considered the cell partitions along the, spatial directions, or you can the spatial dimensions, we are also introducing, right, the cell partition along the channel dimensions together, right, to capture the detailed global informations from the images. But in the encoder part, we have basically used convolutions. There are two modules. One is the traditional convolutional modules, right? But as we all know that polyps can have different sizes, so we must have filters at different sizes to capture multi-scale informations. To apply or to achieve those multi-scaling basically properties, we can apply the filters, right, of different sizes. But if we know that if we apply directly the filters of different sizes, the number of parameters is going to be very, very high. We have just used separable convolution, the concept of separable convolution instead of the standard convolutions to reduce the number of parameters and apply it, right? Separable convolutions having 1 cross 1 size, 3 cross 3, 5 cross 5, 7 cross 7, and combined together. Basically, we are concatenating the features whatever we are obtaining after applying those sort of filters, and then what we are claiming that is this type of this type of blocks will help us in capturing multi-scale informations from the images, followed by this particular block is followed by another block known as channel attention, followed by spatial attention, which we have just now discussed, right? After applying global average pooling, then we have applied, you see everything is same, right? We are getting some weights multiplied with the original input image, right? And what we are getting is a channel attention map here, then followed by spatial attention map. So this encoder part is fully right with some of the blocks which we have introduced here, followed by the attention, and the decoder part is totally a transformer part, right? And that's why the name is so called convolutional transformer, right? And it is working really well on some of the data sets, right? And here are some of the results, and all these methods have been validated on the data sets which you have considered, right? Yeah. On the same, under the same experimental setup, you can say, right? And if you see, most of the cases, our model is giving better results compared to these state-of-the-art segmentation approaches like unit, segment, deep love, attention unit, right? Where unit has been, in unit, attention concept has been introduced, and the name is so-called attention unit, right? In REST unit plus, which is proposed by Dr. Davis, and where also they have introduced, some attention mechanisms into the REST unit architectures, and the name is so-called REST unit plus. And there's one, architecture also, transformer-based architecture, right? Okay, so here are some of the results on different data sets. So in most of the cases, we are getting right? Consistently improved performance. Here is some of the ablation studies just to show you that whether the modules which we have defined, right, or which the modules which we have incorporated are important, or which of the modules are more important, and whether all are important or not. So what we found, yes, all are important for us. If you are removing even the channel, if you're not considering the channel attention, you can see, right? So I mean, basically the channel wise self attention, right? If you are including channel wise self attention, it is also helping us in improving, right, the model performance to some extent. Here is the qualitative results we have, and we have compared with the state of the art architectures, which I've already shown you. And if you see in the first column, you will find the input images. In the last column, you will find the ground truth provided by the doctors. And if you find the second column here, I mean the second last column, these are nothing but the results obtained by our approach, right? So there are few cases where it is very, very difficult to identify the polyps, and the regions are something very confusing. And if you look at the regions and the boundaries, right, let's say for the last case, right, for the last image, if you see the outputs obtained by the other approaches and the outputs obtained by our approach, which is pretty close to the ground truth, right? It's very, very close to the ground truth. So similarly, there are some cases where there can be multiple number of polyps, as I mentioned. Sometimes some of the polyps may be missed, right? Because there are multiple number of polyps. So if you look at this case, so there are two polyps, and our model could able to identify two polyps along with the correct boundaries. But if you look at the other methods, they could not able to, sometimes in some cases, they could not able to identify, right, correctly whether there are two polyps or one polyp or like that. So similarly, you can just check other one, and we have also performed a generalization test. What does it mean? That we have also tested, right, our model on new data set with, I mean, the data set can be considered as an on-scene data set where the model has not seen any one of the samples, right, on the new data set. So also we have seen, right, that our model is performing well on the on-scene data set, right? So collected from different regions using different machines, right? That is very, very important nowadays. Okay, so with this, I'll stop my lecture here. I think we're running out of time. So if you are having any queries, you can write your queries. I'll be happy to take those queries. Yes, do you have any query? If you're having any query, you can write it in the chat box. Yeah, I could see there is one question that is dimensionality reduction required if it is used in hyperspectral classification, right? Is dimensionality reduction required if it is used? See, no. If you want, you can reduce the dimensions initially, right? But dimension reduction is not encouraged nowadays because we know that yes, all the spectral dimension you are talking about, right? So all the spectral dimension is not important, but there are some informations maybe which are important in that spectral, which we are trying to remove. But it's better to go ahead with all the spectral, right? And then you can apply this kind of attentions can be applied over 3D data, over 2D data. There is no problem, right? So you have to just modify your code a little bit if you are dealing with high dimensional data. But if you're reducing the dimensions initially, either using some sort of feature selection technique or probably the PCA kind of thing to reduce the dimensions of the hyperspectral image. So there is a chance that you may lose some informations, right? And unnecessary steps are also required, right? Like um, unnecessary steps means the model is not going to be end-to-end learnable. So before passing to the model, you are trying to reduce the dimensions, right? And those dimensions reduction techniques is not considered as end-to-end learnable. So that means you need some pre-processing kind of thing before that. But if you can directly go ahead with this, then well, there is no need of dimension reductions, right? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, I think there are no other questions. So